He became one of the most wealthiest pirates during the Golden Age. He helped give the shores of Florida the nickname the Gold Coast. His infamy grew large enough to gain the attention of none other than Blackbeard, who recruited him to join his crew. Today on History of Pirates, we're talking Black Caesar. The myth, legend, and history surrounding Black Caesar's origin is quite fascinating. In the late 17th century, Caesar was born in West Africa. He was a feared warrior and a leader of a tribe. He had an enormous physical appearance, and he was very intelligent. For most of his youth, he was able to evade being captured and becoming a slave. But eventually, a pirate tricked him with the promise of wealth and women to step aboard a ship. Once he was safely aboard the ship, he was captured and put into slavery. Aboard the slave ship, Caesar was befriended by one of the sailors that gave him food and water. Caesar began to learn the language, and as some would say, luck would have it, as the boat got closer to the Florida coast, it was struck by a fatal hurricane. The sailor, Caesar's friend, freed him, and they stole a longboat with supplies and weapons so that the two of them could escape. The hurricane took the ship and everyone else that was on board. While stranded on the small island with little supplies, the two men came up with a plan. While they were close to the Florida shores, they knew ships would pass by, so at the sight of a boat, they would approach the ship in their small rowboat. When the ship stopped to assist the two men who appeared to be stranded, Black Caesar and his friend would hold the captain and crew at gunpoint while they loaded up their boat with as much gold and supplies they could carry, and they would simply just row away. The two men used this routine many times over the next few years and amassed a large fortune, all buried, all hidden on Elliott Key. However, after a few years of attacking ships, Black Caesar and his sailor friend had a falling out over a woman. One day they boarded a ship and took a beautiful English woman as hostage, but both men wanted this woman. As the story goes, the two men would not stop arguing, which led them to a duel, where Black Caesar killed his longtime friend, his friend who just saved him a few years prior. Shortly after this, Black Caesar left the island to pursue his pirate career, and not much was said about the Englishwoman. While some speculate she was killed, others speculate that she was left on the island. But over the years, Caesar would capture men and bring them back to the island where he converted them into pirates. And once the group grew large enough for a crew, he then hijacked ships and turned them into pirate ships. Now that he had the ships and he had the crew, they began accumulating such great wealth, and his attacks on others were so violent that he began to be known as one of the most feared pirates in all the sea. Many reported that he had a home that was filled with over 100 women, all for himself. And he also used many different islands in the Keys to hold prisoners for ransom. He fathered many children, but many times he would leave, and he would not leave enough food and provision, causing many of the women and the prisoners to become ill and die. Many of the fathered children who managed to escape the compound said to have created their own secret society on one of the islands. They spoke their own unique language and had their own customs, which may account for why many believe Elliott Key is haunted. Despite having the respect and wealth of a small-time pirate in his own right, when Caesar was offered by none other than Blackbeard to join his crew, he couldn't resist the prospect of increasing his earnings. He became the lieutenant for the Queen Anne's Revenge. Blackbeard's crew roamed the coastal waters of North Carolina and Virginia for almost 2 decades. There they became the most feared, the most famous, and one of the most brutal pirates during the Golden Age. But as you know, many pirate tales do not have a happy ending. The Lieutenant Governor of Virginia sent a British naval fleet to dispose of the pirates. Heading this fleet was Lieutenant Robert Maynard, who upon capturing Queen Anne's Revenge defeated Blackbeard and severed off his head. Despite having all the wealth that any pirate could dream of, the fame, the fear, and the private islands, following this defeat, Black Caesar was captured with the surviving crew by Virginia colonial authorities and was sentenced to hang in Williamsburg, Virginia in 1718. Now, some would say that is the end of the legend of Black Caesar, but there was another, a few decades later, that took up the name and became one of the most feared pirates in the Caribbean. But that is a tale for another time. Thank you for being here. Do us a favor and leave a like and a comment. It really helps the channel out. And we'll catch you next time on History of Pirates.